Hello everyone, welcome to Election Future. In this video, I'm sharing my updated 2024 electoral map prediction, but we're going to approach it a little differently this time. I'll be filling in the states as the polls close across the country. If you didn't know, voting doesn't end at the same time in every state. The East Coast states finish up first, and then results gradually come in from the West. Today, you'll get to see how the map will actually start filling in with red and blue on election night. There are 6 states, and they hold a total of 60 electoral votes. It's not a huge chunk, but these are the first to be called. Most of them are pretty straightforward. Either Trump or Harris will lock them in. Let's start with Georgia, the tightest battleground in the 2020 election. It was extremely close, with Joe Biden winning by just 0.24%. However, Democrats won't see a repeat victory this time. Georgia is trending back toward Trump. Just look at the last 8 polls. 6 show Trump in the lead, and 5 have him ahead by 3 points or more. Harris is finished in Georgia. Her campaign might as well pull out. Last time, Trump was only ahead by 1% in the polling average, but now he's up by 2, and his lead is growing. The latest Rasmussen poll has Trump up by 3, and the New York Times has him ahead by 4, so Georgia is looking like a lean red state this time around. Now shifting our focus to Virginia, where the race is tightening up significantly. The latest poll shows Harris with an 8% lead. To put this in perspective, before Joe Biden exited the race, he was trailing Donald Trump in the polling average. Virginia, a state that has shifted sharply to the left in recent years, elected a Republican governor in 2021. Harris only being ahead by 8 points in the latest poll is a troubling sign for Democrats, placing Virginia in the lean blue category. Before we continue, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any updates as we approach the 2024 election. Let us know in the comments which state you're from and which candidate you're backing for president. Drop a red heart if you're supporting the Republican candidate or a blue heart if you're going with the Democrat. Looking forward to seeing where everyone stands. Now, the remaining 4 states will easily go to one candidate or the other. Trump is set to win Indiana, Kentucky, and South Carolina by a solid margin for the 3rd consecutive time, while Kamala Harris will take Vermont, the most liberal state in the nation. Voting will close in Ohio, West Virginia, and North Carolina, with North Carolina being by far the most critical of the 7 battleground states. These battlegrounds include Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Arizona. Among this group, North Carolina stands out, having gone to Donald Trump in both 2016 and 2020, even as he lost the Midwest, Georgia, and Arizona. It is, without a doubt, a must-win state for him. North Carolina, known as the Tar Heel State, is shaping up to be another close contest, with Donald Trump holding a 2% lead according to the latest poll from the New York Times, a left-leaning pollster. That 2-point lead for Trump from the New York Times is quite significant. Back in 2020, almost every poll predicted Joe Biden would take the Tar Heel State. That's clearly no longer the case. Donald Trump is leading the race here. North Carolina has stayed with the former president, and it looks poised to do so for a 3rd time. According to the latest poll, North Carolina is leaning red. Since 1976, the state has only turned blue once, and that was when Barack Obama won by just 1/3 of a percentage point in 2008. Kamala Harris is not going to be the second Democrat in the last 50 years to flip North Carolina. During his time in Ohio, Donald Trump is performing exceptionally well, with the latest polls showing him ahead by double digits. Trump turned Ohio red in 2016, secured it again in 2020, and there's little doubt he'll claim victory there for a 3rd consecutive time in 2024. Meanwhile, West Virginia ranks as the 2nd most Republican state in the nation. It's going to be solid red 30 minutes from now. We hit the biggest poll closing of the evening. This will lock in 171 electoral votes, which is nearly 1/3 of the entire Electoral College. We'll start by marking the solid states for both candidates. Many of these will be decided by margins of 15 points or more. For example, Donald Trump is set to take states like Oklahoma, Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama without much competition, while Kamala Harris holds a clear edge in Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. However, states like Illinois, New Jersey, and Delaware will be a bit more competitive. As for Maine, the University of New Hampshire has thrown off the polling average. They've released 2 polls, and the latest one shows Harris up by 17 points, which is pretty unrealistic. Joe Biden won Maine by 9 points, a solid improvement over Hillary Clinton's 2.9-point margin in 2016. So, seeing UNH shift from a 9-point lead for Harris to 17 in just 1 month shows how flawed their polling can be. A more recent poll from Pan Atlantic has Harris up by 9 points, which is more plausible but still overshooting Democratic support. For now, we're placing Maine in the likely blue category, with its 1st district solid blue and the 2nd district leaning red. Let's now focus on the 3 remaining states, one of which could be the most crucial in the entire country. Pennsylvania, often referred to as the Keystone State. Pennsylvania is likely to play a pivotal role in this election. It's the state everyone has their eyes on. Without a win in Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris has virtually no path to the presidency. The good news for Trump at the moment is that he's ahead in Pennsylvania in the latest poll from Rasmussen Reports. The race is neck and neck, but in the previous poll, which we'll reference for the map, Trump holds a 1% lead. Some may point out that Harris is barely trailing in the polling average, but she's still performing significantly worse compared to Biden in 2020 and Clinton in 2016. This highlights yet another instance where Kamala Harris is underperforming compared to the last 2 Democratic candidates, which poses a major challenge for her campaign. If she can't secure Pennsylvania, her chances of winning the election diminish significantly. Even if she manages to win states like Michigan, Nevada, and Wisconsin, where she's currently not leading, or hold on to Arizona without Pennsylvania, the numbers just don't add up for Harris. Winning the Keystone State is absolutely essential if she hopes to have any solid shot at becoming the 47th president. But this time, Pennsylvania is leaning slightly red based on the latest polls. We've got a highly questionable poll out of New Hampshire conducted by the University of New Hampshire, which, of course, is located right there in the Granite State. This poll has Kamala Harris up by 11 points, which is absurd. Keep in mind, Joe Biden only carried New Hampshire by 7 points in 2020. There's no way Harris is going to secure a double-digit win there. It's just not happening. But for the sake of the map, we're going to mark New Hampshire as likely blue based on this flawed polling data. In the Sunshine State of Florida, Donald Trump is poised to claim victory for a 3rd consecutive time. Back in 2016, polls predicted a win for Hillary Clinton, but Trump secured the state by 1.2%. Fast forward to 2020, and despite polls favoring Biden by an even larger margin than Clinton, Trump exceeded expectations again, winning Florida by 3.4%. Now, Trump looks set to increase his support in Florida once more. He holds an average lead of 6 percentage points, with some polls showing him ahead by as much as 10 points. A win by 7 to 10 points is likely, though the latest poll from The Hill and Emerson College has him up by 5. Based on this data, Florida is currently rated lean red, delivering 30 electoral votes into Trump's column. Another 157 electoral votes will be up for grabs. As we've seen before, many of these states are likely to fall into Donald Trump's column. Both Dakotas, nearly all of Nebraska, except for its 2nd district, which leans blue, are expected to go to Trump. He's also set to win Wyoming, Kansas, and Louisiana. We turn our attention to the Midwest, starting with Minnesota, the home state of Governor Tim Walz, who is Harris's running mate. This is the primary reason she holds the lead in Minnesota. Had Biden remained in the race, Trump would likely be ahead. Even with Harris as the nominee, if Walz wasn't on the ticket, Republicans might very well be leading here. Though Minnesota hasn't voted for a Republican since 1972, the state has trended significantly rightward in the last decade. But with Walz on the ticket, Harris currently holds a 5-point advantage in recent polls, making Minnesota a lean blue state. Wisconsin is shaping up to be one of the closest states in the country this election cycle. While Governor Evers may boost Harris's chances here, Wisconsin is historically the most conservative of the 3 key blue wall states: Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. That's why it's going to be especially competitive this time. It will likely lean a bit more to the left compared to Pennsylvania, but Trump remains the favorite. The latest poll shows him ahead by 1%, which, considering Wisconsin's history, is significant. In 2020, Joe Biden was projected to win the state by 6.6% at this stage, but only secured it by 0.63%. Back in 2016, Hillary Clinton led by 4.7% around this time in September, yet she ended up losing Wisconsin entirely. So the fact that Trump is leading in the most recent polls speaks volumes because in both 2020 and 2016, no polls showed Trump ahead here. Today, Wisconsin looks like it will tilt red, and while that might sound like a narrow victory, it likely means Trump will win by at least 2 or 3 points. Now, looking at Michigan, it's the most liberal of the 7 swing states. Joe Biden won it by almost 3 points in 2020. Currently, Harris leads by 3% in the most recent poll, with an average lead of 1.8%. This is still much lower than where both Clinton and Biden stood in their respective elections. Polling in Michigan has consistently overestimated Democratic support in the last 2 elections. With Harris only up by 1.8%, this lead is far from secure. While I still predict a Trump victory in Michigan, according to the numbers right now, Harris is slightly ahead and could potentially win the state by a narrow margin. Based on the most recent poll in New York, we're witnessing another unexpectedly competitive race in a state that Joe Biden carried by a hefty 23 points in the last election. But now, Kamala Harris's lead in the Empire State has shrunk to just 13 points. Earlier, we had a poll from Siena College about 2 months ago that showed Harris ahead by 14%. While she was leading by just shy of 15 points, she might pull off a solid win. However, a fresh poll from Siena College shows her lead has slipped to 13 points. This isn't an improvement, it's actually worse. It confirms that Harris is on track to deliver the weakest performance for any Democratic candidate in New York since 1988. The last time New York wasn't a solid blue state was when Michael Dukakis faced off against George H.W. Bush nearly 4 decades ago. So, right now, New York looks like it's likely blue on the map. Now, moving over to Arizona, this state is going to be absolutely crucial. It went Democratic in the last election, but in 2020, Biden squeaked by with a win, taking Arizona by just 0.31%. It was the second closest race in the nation, only Georgia was tighter. Biden's win in Arizona in 2020 was significant, but today, Kamala Harris is trailing badly. According to the latest poll from the New York Times, Trump is ahead by a substantial 5 percentage points, which is well beyond the margin of error. If Trump can carry Arizona by 5 points, there's almost no chance he loses the election. In fact, Trump leads in 5 of the last 6 polls out of Arizona, going back to the end of August. There's only one poll where Harris isn't behind, and that's the one where she's tied with Trump. So, on our map, Arizona is shaping up to be a lean red state. Trump is on pace to perform significantly better here than he did 4 years ago. And according to Polymarket, he has a 63% chance of winning Arizona. His odds in Arizona are stronger than in any other swing state. The elections in November will apparently be very exciting. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video and turn on the notification bell. See you in the next video.